Since coming of that first bill, our prosperity began in 1969 or so, when there was much of the price rise for the grains, and we had ample of grains production that time. Or so very rightfully, I welcome this bill because it conforms to preserving our as a farmer our own heritage and the seeds. First, I should point out my positive thoughts about the bill itself. The second aspect that it clearly, explicitly says it, but defining farmer is a little tricky situation into it. The farmer definitions are to be again redefined kind of things because it lacks many of the things. Definitely, it may. What I was today morning, when I was talking to Mr. Sampat Kumar Saab, so told him what farmer needs good quality seeds, and at that very time of the seeds that we should have. Present generation of the farmers, they don't have their so much of the spare capacity. So whether it's the government sector, public sector, or the private sector. Earlier, definitely in the very beginning, it was the private sector which has dominated, public sector which had dominated. Right now, the private sectors are coming. So saying that whether it's the red cat or black cat, if it kills the rat, it's a cat. So I'm very crystal clear about my own observation. The third point that I would like to say, cutting short, which I'll be add up when more of the discussions, because the this legislation is not for pro farmer kind of thing. It's more of the, uh, if I put it in a jargon kind of thing, it's more traveling towards the ease of doing business rather than the ease of farming. So we have to be little clear definitely what it was spelled out, how the laws are being framed or will be framed in this. There we have to have own scope of putting it. So I think I should right now I should with this aspect I should put a little take a pause for it, and I should listen more of you because I haven't very I have just been keeping a tab over it, but not very frankly. So in the mid of the discussion, I will join again. I would like to
Okay.
take the privilege.
Okay. Thank you. So I think you made the good points that it is preserving farmers' rights and
Yes,
heritage of the farmer, which is a good part because that is not getting disturbed.
yes,
What was there in the previous act is also getting continued here in terms of farmers' rights and heritage protection. But you also mentioned the definition of farmer needs to be looked at, so that
yes,
any suggestions you have, we can talk about it. And as the discussion goes on, we may also look at that aspect. Ease of doing business, you said, yes, it addresses ease of doing business certainly, but not at the cost of the farmers. Is it at the cost of the farmers? Is something which you have asked that question, or is it ease of cultivation? That also
yes.
you have asked. So we will come back to that as the discussion goes on. I will now go to Dr. Krishna Kumar, who is from ICR system and also particularly on horticulture. So, Dr. Krishna Kumar, the Act actually addresses not only seeds but also planting materials, because a lot of fruit trees will depend on planting materials, and there are other things which are also covered in this. So, specifically with regard to horticultural crops or any other aspect of the Act the proposed bill, would you like to make some comment?
Yeah, I will. Thank you very much, sir, and good morning to all of you. As Malvika and you rightfully said that it's very nice that the planting material has been included, expanded in this seed bill to also cover rhizomes and many other things in a large way addresses the planting material. But I would like to flag a few issues within the planting material itself. One is with respect to we need to dwell a little more deeper into potato, which contributes to nearly about 40 million tons and one of the largest in terms of food security. And there are a lot of problems with regard to potato because it is vegetatively propagated, and also this has to be linked to certain biosecurity issues, both moving within the country and from whatever sometimes creeps into the country through outside the country. As far as the seed bill is concerned, we have been talking about the seed bill, but I feel seed bill and biosecurity bill should go parallel because one is in a way linked to the other, and more so when we are talking about the planting material. So there is a need, when we say planting material, we should segmentize into different components, and very, very major crops such as potato, we need a separate inputs from the experts because it is very, very vital to the food security of the country. The horticulture sector includes vegetables, fruits, plantation crops, tuber crops, spices, medicinal plants, and floriculture. Now, putting everything as a seed or as a planting material is good from a convenience angle, but each segment has its own kind of a speciality. And what I would really require before these aspects are finalized is we need a small domain experts from plantation crops, medicinal crops, fruit crops. Because fruit crops, when we say planting material, it also comes with the rootstock. So rootstock has its own kind of problems associated with it. Then there are crop wild relatives for breeding in vegetables. Some of them are seed. And within the vegetables itself, what I call it as there are two types. One is the short tail and the long tail. The short tail is high value crops, but the total components are very small, in terms of quantity, whatever that gets sold. And most of it is addressed by the private sector. But the long tail, such as onion and many other crops, vegetable legumes, or the long tail, low value crops, which the private sector is not very keen, and the public sector does not really come forward, or the farmers, with regard to the aspects pertaining to the things that need to be. For example, let me take the example of onion. 80% of our onion seeds are farmers' seeds, and their quality is very poor. The quality is very poor for a number of reasons. And then there is a lot of things that need to be addressed with regard to onion seeds. Now, in the seed bill, what happens, I'll just give an example. Whenever there is a shortage of onion goes as a planting material, and we are suddenly left out with no onion seeds, and we import long day onions, and it creates a confusion. That's why I said crops such as onion, crops such as potato, they need a kind of a segmental input within the seed material itself. In case of horticulture crops, to make it more realistic, I can talk about each of the crop, but horticulture nurseries and forest nurseries get intermingled. It's not always one other. So many of these acts that we are talking should be largely covering the large aspects. Then there is a seed bill and planting material. Though they have said that every nursery should be registered, we are seeing so many laws of the quarantine, and we know that at the grassroots level to what extent these laws get implemented. And the same thing that applies to registration of nurseries. There are thousands and thousands of nurseries which are unregistered. They are fly-by nurseries. They are nurseries importing plant material. The question is not the rule of seed law or anything, seed bill. There has to be a very serious mechanism as to how we are going to implement the seed bill. That implementation of the seed bill becomes very critical. Otherwise, it will be just like our one more laws on quarantine. On paper, everything is there, but on the ground level, nothing really matters at the grassroots level. Now, the the seed also, of course, last time we raised, there are seed in, I mean, I am also associated. I hope that they have mentioned clearly. I didn't see. In case of, when we say sericulture, seed refers to the moth, eggs of the moth. So I wish that we are very clear as to fisheries have one seed, sericulture has one seed. I hope we are not mixing the many other extraneous factors. But as Malvika said, I was looking at the penalty clause and many others. Agriculture is a state subject, but movement of material, seed and other things is across the state. Now, where do you hold it accountable for? Supposing I produce the seed in Haryana or Punjab and market it in Karnataka, potato or some other thing, there are lot many issues. And how do we play as a country that somebody who produces substandard seeds or whatever it is, how is it held accountable both for the planting material as well as for seeds? And for multinationals also, international multinationals, of course, the same seed bills will hold good. Now, coming to some of the specifics, which I had a discussions with a number of others, the voluntary certification by many under the Seed Act. That is, this is a shift from the voluntary seed certification system. We must be commercial, all seed varieties for commercial seed must be registered and meet prescribed minimum standards. Do we have prescribed minimum standards to all the crops that we are talking? I think there is a huge gap. We don't even have minimum prescribed standards, at least for a n number of crops. If I take medicinal crops, many ornamentals, there are no standards. This needs to be generated. There is a farmers' rights affirmed, individual farmers to save, use, exchange, and they are not sold under any brand name. Now the question is, they may not sell it under a brand name, but import a valuable material, do budding or grafting and begins to sell it. Now you are infringing on the IPR rights. You are also infringing on somebody who rightfully imports and markets it. Here is a man who buys the plant material, does 1,000 grafting and budding in the name without brand, he goes and sells it. Now, how do we address these kinds of things that are? Then there is another, it says that, of course, this is by Dr. Rana. Seed packeted as mandated in the proposed legislation is expected to create barriers for fly-by-night operators. We have a lot of companies which are 1 year, 2 year, and maybe 2 to 3 years companies who just import a material, float a seed company and disappear. And what does this seed law says with respect to this? How are we going to import for some of these persons? I will just not take too much time, but I will only say certain things. There are several red flags being in the description of the lead that talks about facilitation of seed production and quality regulation. But how it is made, how do you facilitate seed production and quality regulation and price regulation especially? There is no mention of the price regulation. Now we know that in the case of BT cotton, one of the main things that came in the way was our cotton seeds are high, China is selling at a lower price. So this is something that needs to be looked from a trade as well as to make sure that the farmers get the seed at the right price. But having said this, the price regulation, supposing a company makes a lot of effort in importing or developing a variety which is absolutely superior, then telling them that your seed should be on par with everybody else is also stupid. So these are some things that need to be a little more discussion. In case of, it is already reflecting its bias. Although price regulation has been included, a positive development compared to the previous version, it applies only in emergent situation and not all seeds. So this is something, there is no mention of protecting the right of seed producing farmers. Now, what is the right of the farmers who are producing the seeds also should come into the picture. And I have also told about the state versus the center sometime. The statute lays out wholesale red carpet for big corporation and MNC, effectively trampling upon the authority of the state government. This is another version that is expressed. I don't think, in my opinion, it is absolutely correct, because the law of the land are almost uniform across the many others. I had a small discussions with Dr. Santosh Athawar and I'll read some of his apprehension as what he said as one of the points with respect to floriculture. And he has said point by point on seed bill, it seeks to fix extension and need correction in chapter 3A, that is registration of all kinds or varieties. Point number 13, variety produced for export or export production. These points need clarification. Export production variety exclusive in production contract may be one type. A company from Germany may give a contract to X company to produce these seeds for one time. It is not a permanent thing. In this, request is to exempt variety for only one production and seed multiplication contract. India become a hub of vegetable seed production, but have both the producers and the company they want to maintain secrecy with regard to the company to whom they are doing, as well as to what the material that they are. So this needs confidentiality. If not, as a country, we may lose the production contract. So there are certain very specific cases. India has got the advantage that we can tailor make production for a number of hybrids and seeds for many companies. Now you tell them that every time you have to disclose, it's a contract order and it need not be made everything to be public because they have their own. Chapter 3, revocation, suspension of license. Point 15b related to non-performance. Add one word. See, non-performance means what? Certainly there can be climatic aberrations. There may be excess moisture. There may be drought. There may be severe virus incidents. So this normal performance should be at least for 2 to 3 seasons and not one season where aberration should not be actually considered as non-performance. Chapter evaluation of performance, point 16. Government only mentions government institute. Private seed company word need to be added to like any other institution. Logic is company have equal capabilities to test the varieties in multi locations. Now this I find is a very important thing. I don't know why in this changing era that I have also been a part of the ECRIP. I know the strength and the weaknesses of the ECRIP as well as the strength and weaknesses of since I am also working for Indo-American hybrids. I think the time has come that we should really open up this kind of testing to many of the private companies, and they make an excellent job of it. Regulation of seed price in emergency situation. It is quite subjective. We make it very clear only in case of emergency when food scarcity prevails. Otherwise, this can be interpreted to harsh company. If any good hybrid related by research-based company, and if there is no competition, it cannot be termed as monopolistic. See, sometimes we brand certain seeds as monopolistic, but that is their hard work. And only if there is a dire need for that, it could be made available to everybody. Otherwise, that company should be given, in fairness, the advantages in that particular aspect. Accreditation of seed certification include authorization to private company with some defined accreditation. ISPM 45 defines that private companies can also do seed certification. It will reduce the government pressure. Seed certification by government institutes. Sometimes even with regard to seed certification, we have to invite NBPGR, we have to invite quarantine, we have to pay their airfare, you have to pay their hotel bills. It's very expensive for many companies. As well, select a few companies that the government considers appropriate and give them their kind of a, for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you can do this thing. And another important and last point I would like to ask, seed selling license. They should bring that under seed bill. We should create a national seed register. These are some of the points which we have been told. And if you allow me, there are few points from another seed company. Am I permitted for a few more minutes?
We will come back to you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We'll come back to you because once others also express their comments.
Thank you.
Then we'll come back to you. Thank you very much. You have really covered very well. And I think some of these things have to also get covered in the definitions, whether the definitions are adequately done or not. For example, you mentioned about emergency situation, which triggers a price control. Emergency situation should be defined in the definitions. That is one way you can overcome misuse of, such a provision in the Act. And and seed producing farmers and their rights you have brought out very nicely. And I think the quality of you mentioned about onion, that 80% of what you call the long tail vegetables are farmer saved seeds. And in many cases, the quality, when we say farmer saved seeds, they also sell those seeds unbranded.
Yeah.
So if the quality is the quality of the seed which a farmer is selling to other farmers also is as important as the quality of a seed which is being sold by a company to a farmer.
Yeah.
So I think there are some issues related to quality also. So you brought out all of them very nicely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I will now go to Mr. Satish, who represents Lemagrain, to bring out the perspectives of research-based, those companies which are investing heavily into research to develop new varieties. And whether they're Indian companies or foreign companies doesn't matter. But there are people who, I mean, Indian companies and foreign companies also will have different issues. But still, just looking at the aspect of research-based companies, what will be your comments on this act?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kondinya. And from a perspective of companies which are in R&D, whether it's MNCs or Indian companies, which many Indian companies are also doing now, I think the first thing any company which invests in R&D looks for a robust, IPR protection, because that is a fundamental to when you make an investment. You're looking for, at the end of the day, a return which has to be protected, whether it is traits and technology, whether it's which is not covered under the current act. Then there is a plant variety protection, and earlier Dr. Dadlani did mention that both the laws have to be in sync, because the Plant Variety Protection Act also gives you a protection for your IP or for the investment which you do. The other challenge which is there for any company which invests in research is the anti-counterfeiting, which is a loss of your investment because somebody else, as was mentioned, went into the business, and then you tend to lose. So a robust IPR protection would what any research-based company would look for. Obviously, the other few things which we look is the stable and consistent policies over time, and a congenial environment for the ease of doing business, with a very minimal intervention or from various agencies, because many of the laws are made with good intention. As mentioned, I think when the execution happens, the implementation happens, then there is the more the intervention, the more difficulty it comes in. So the ease of doing business has to be there. And the other few things which any company which invests in R&D is look for, what are the deterrent for any malpractices? Is there a strong law or regulation which prevents companies to actually do things? And that's any society would also have the same thing. If there is a fear or a deterrent, only then people would not get into it. And I think the company would always look for a good redressal mechanism, both in terms of legal as well as administrative, which has to be quick, timely, and fair. I think these are few things which any company to invest in R&D look for. From a current SEED Act, if you look into it, some positive points which we look from the industry perspective or company perspective is the central accreditation system. I think I do understand it's a state subject. The state government have their own views about it, but from a perspective that effectively when you're operating in a country, and then there are 28 states and everybody has their own rules and regulation, it becomes literally 28 countries to operate. So a central accreditation system is a very good system which has been brought out in this draft bill. Recognition of private sector as a true partner in R&D and having facilities and capabilities is another recognition. Accreditation of the private certification bodies is also a good step. Registration of different entities in the seed supply chain, being mandatory is a very good thing, so that at least we know who's there. So I think that's a very positive thing. Decriminalization of the violation and offenses is a very good way to, even if the penalties are quite stiff, but I would say decriminalization is a very good step in the right direction. The amount could be always be discussed, but I think that's a good step. Some of the few things that the government has mentioned in this, and I would say there are more clarity to be brought in, is in terms of the traceability. Is definitely a compliance is good way to understand, but I think the assurance of how the data will be used, the confidentiality of the data becomes very critical for any companies which are operating, and that is to be still ascertained. The whole idea of testing and the VCU, I think we still have to understand the capabilities of the various institutions, the transparency in which will be done, and the timeliness of approval. And as early mentioned also, that there has to be clarity in terms of the procedure and parameters and standards which are there, because we've seen in the notification system, many hybrids which were never notified or did not pass through still went on to become a very successful hybrid with the farmers, where the farmers liked it. So I think this whole VCU is good, but I think there has to be clarity and also timelines, because we have seen in some states which have implemented this, we've had tough times finally getting approvals on time. So I think somewhere, I think the intention was good. The executions have been always a challenge for companies which have followed the path of going through and adhering to the process. There is a mention about seed compensation for the farmers, and we agree that there has to be, but I think it is not very clear in terms of addressing what is non-performance and how the compensation mechanism is going to work, because it's a very gray area. And I think, as everybody knows who is part of agriculture, that the performance is a factor of many things, and just not the seed. So I think the compensation mechanism has to be clearly defined how it will be done. There was a mention about pricing. I think clearly, I think I agree that pricing should be left to market forces. I think India has many companies. There's enough and more to get a fair price. Emergency situations have to be clearly defined. What does it mean? Otherwise, every regulation to intervene would become quite a difficult one. And I think there are enough and more market forces to determine the pricing which is there. My last point would be in terms of defining the role of the seed inspectors. So I hope there are sweeping powers which have been given to the seed inspectors, and we don't want a license Raj and to come back. I think we need to clearly say in terms of where does the clear regulations or clear the things which the seed inspector is supposed to do. It should not become a deterrent for doing business and becoming a tactic to arm twist, actually. I'll stop here. Obviously, I think it's a very good move. Definitely, it will improve the compliance cost, but it will also help at the end of the day, as Mr. Kaundinya said, I think each of us are working toward the welfare of the farmers. If the farmer is there, then the seed companies are there. I don't think so. The seed companies have to be seen as somebody who works against the interest of it. We will survive only if the farmer survives. So we are all in favor of it. So we support this, and I think many of the steps are in right direction. Obviously, some clarity has to be there in few things which are there. I'll stop here, Mr. Kaundinya. Those are few community-based companies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think you have flagged all the points as can be expected from those who invest in research. Obviously, this central accreditation system, I think it's a good thing. A lot of guardrails have to be put in place so that there is a well prescribed process of recognizing companies or organizations, because once that provision is there, even non-seed companies who are private entrepreneurs can also come up there. So it is a process has to be put in place, and the audit systems and then the review systems, and no accreditation can be permanent. Accreditation has to be only for a few years, which is subject to renewal. So all these things, I am hoping that all of them will come in the rules, but I think there's no harm in giving suggestions on this. But one question I have, I think if Dr. Malavika is there, I would like to seek this clarification also, that between the two acts, that is PPV and FR, and PPV and FR is expected to protect your original invention, right? Here, if I understand this correctly, any variety, whether it is protected or not, if you want to sell, you have to get it registered.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So my question is, an unprotected variety may be sold by 10 companies.
Yes.
So each
Yes.
one of them will have to go for a registration of their variety.
No. Variety is registered. Now, one registered variety, suppose it is your variety, it is not protected, but it is registered. And I am another seed company. So I can actually produce, as per this act, I can produce a seed of your variety, which is not protected, but registered, and sell it in the market in the same name. In the same name. I cannot change the name because it is registered in that name. Denomination has been given by you and it is registered in that name. So same name, it can be sold.
But that would mean that if I have an unprotected variety, and I might not have protected it for various reasons, whatever are the reasons, that means another 50 people can sell my variety.
Yes, yes.
Using my registration number.
Yes.
And there is no control on that.
No, you have to go for protection, IPR, PPVFR.
So this is an important point I wanted to understand, because
yes, you're right, absolutely right.
Yeah, because what will happen is that currently also people are doing it, okay, by stealing the products, right? And what prevents people from stealing the products in future also under this, and then using the same one, using the same registration, my registration number. And so I just wanted to flag it for a discussion, whether you had a discussion on this or not, because this is an important aspect that are we.
It's a good point. Actually, Ram, I would suggest that in the rules, this should be brought in, that there has to be some kind of agreement with the original producer or the company which has registered that variety, with maybe any number of companies can produce that seed within agreement with the parent company. That law, that should be brought in under the law when the rules are framed.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe, but we'll have to flag this to the government so that they will think about it.
Absolutely.
Dr. Gowda wants to say something. I will just give an opportunity to Dr. Gowda to say something. Your seniority.
This is regarding what Mr. Satish mentioned. Regarding responsibility for compensation to the farmers. I think it is a kind of a double-edged sword, because even if, see, it is a biological entity, seed is a biological entity, and there could be many biological factors that can affect the performance, including farmers' errors or whatever it is. So I think that has to be very suitably modified or defined so that seed companies don't get unnecessarily taxed for giving compensation to the farmers.
Okay, thank you. I think that point needs a lot of work actually. To many state governments did some experiments earlier. I know that some of the state governments formed the technical teams to go and assess crop failures and things like that. But I think we'll come back to that. So now I will move to. No, we'll come back because I want to.
Okay,
Suren, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to mention that this is one of the problems why private sector does not invest into open pollinated system of varieties, because the problem is that I spent 5 years developing a new variety. Then everybody is selling by the same name also, and nobody can protect it. If you haven't gone through PVP RA. And for that also, one of the reasons I have heard within the private sector is that we send it to PVP RA, they want the samples to be put there. But how protected are those samples is not.
No, now that I think that protection of parent material, now PVP that has made enough arrangements, so that we need not worry.
Okay.
But I think some people may not go for protection for different reasons. We don't know. I mean, it's voluntary. It's not compulsory, right? So, like Malavika ji said, everybody has to go for protection. Then, is there enough capacity for protecting so many varieties? A lot of questions will come in, but I will just stop that discussion there.
Yeah, okay.
We will flag this issue in our final summaries also about what is this act actually registering. Is it registering a new variety, or is it registering multiple variation, multiple brands of the same variety? What is it that it is? So we'll come back to that. Maybe we have also two registration experts talking later. We will also take their opinion on that. I will go to KSN. KSN, you have a lot of experience in the industry, and you have been also working very closely with the seed associations, in which there are different size companies, not necessarily only large, either private sector or multinationals. You are also very actively working with MSME companies. So from a point of view of a smaller company or an MSME company, how do you look at this act, and then what are your tick marks and into marks?
Yeah. Thank you, Kandin sir. And it is, in fact, the Indian seed industry is fully dominated by MSMEs. As all of you are aware that 70% of India's seed companies are MSMEs, and there should be a sufficient support through this seed bill for the MSMEs, balanced compliance that supports for the MSME growth. In fact, here, more or less, if you look at the Act and its the provisions, it supports more in terms for the corporates, and also really not for the MSMEs and the real cultivators, farmers. That's my opinion. I will definitely require some changes in the law on the uniform registration requirements for all seed varieties, whether it is by the corporates or MSMEs or this one, it should not be the same, because registration data requirements, field trial requirements, fees, documentation, it's all, etc. definitely needs the MSMEs and the corporates needs a differentiation. Modifications needed are to introduce a tried registration framework, the local varieties, OPVs, region-specific hybrids, and then MSME hybrids with limited acreage, and also large commercial hybrids with full data, lower fee and documentation requirements for MSMEs, and the provisional registration based on one season multiplication trials, etc., needs to be brought in. And also, in terms of the high penalties and the criminal liability provisions, the problem is the penalties apply equally to small and large companies. And earlier drafts included criminal provisions. Large penalties can wipe out the small seed companies. The modification which we need to suggest is remove criminal provisions, implement graded turnover linked penalties, requires scientific proof of seed defects before imposing any such penalties. There should be a proper justification for imposing penalties with proper the weather-related issues, taking into consideration the various other factors, which are some mainly, as we all know, there are so many several practices which determine the seed germination, etc. Compensation to the farmers without scientific verification And then the seed companies are held liable even when crop losses are due to weather, poor agronomy, incorrect seed management, pest disease outbreaks unrelated to seed. The modification which we suggest is compensation only after proper lab testing, field verification, expert committee evaluation, and establishing a shield insurance fund share link between industry and the government. This is what is very important. Then coming to the centralized, slow, non-transparent variety registration, the problem is approval timelines are long and unpredictable. This delays MSME innovation. The modification needed is a single window national digital portal, fixed timelines, and the automatic approval if timelines are exceeded. Fast track the registration for MSME varieties used in limited geographies. These are very important. Coming to the seed testing laboratory requirements, the problem is testing mandates increased costs. Accredited labs are far away from the rural seed clusters. So the modification which is required is district level accredited seed testing labs are to be established. Allow MSMEs to set up own labs under NABL or SAU supervision, and also the subsidized testing fee for small companies. Then coming to the other important modifications which are required, the government provided free or low cost digital traceability platform, simple uniform labeling standards for MSMEs, and training support for small companies to adopt these digital systems and technologies. Coming to the other areas on germplasm and breeder seed access restrictions, the current system favors large players due to limited access to public bred parental lines, lack of transparency, high breeder seed pricing. The modification which requires are the priority access to MSMEs to ICR and SAU germplasm, transparent uniform pricing for breeder seed, dedicated MSME germplasm window for public hybrids. This will help the MSMEs to source the germplasm, and also they will be able to establish through the germplasm which is available in the public system. Then import restrictions for parental lines and trial material. This is lengthy quarantine and clearance procedures, delay breeding programs. MSMEs cannot afford such long delays. The modification needed is permit easy import of trial quantities. For example, 5 kg and below, or within 10-15 days clearance. Simplify quarantine for research material. Separate research imports from commercial imports. And then the seed certification and crop inspection framework. The problem is certification is a time-consuming and often biased towards large companies with established networks. So hence the modification needed is allow the third-party crop inspection agencies under government oversight or digital crop inspection protocols to reduce delays. Priority certification windows for MSMEs during peak seasons. And then as far as the market competition and anti-monopoly provisions, the compliance every law favors large corporations and seed multinationals. Hence, the modification required on to introduce anti-monopoly safeguards in the seed market, ensure access to public hybrids for all companies, ensure seed cooperatives do not receive undue regulatory favors over MSMEs. In summary of the key modifications needed is third MSME friendly registration system, turnover linked penalties, no criminalization, scientific verification before farmer compensation, fast track registration and predictable timeliness, subsidized local testing infrastructure, government supported digital traceability, easier access to public germplasm, liberalized trial imports, third party certification support, and strong anti-monopoly measures. These are some of the, in summary, these are the overall modifications required in the Act to safeguard the interest of MSMEs. And that will help the MSMEs to strengthen and operate in the current system. Otherwise, they will have a problem and their interest will not be protected.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, KSN. I think you have, I can see that you have prepared very well. You have got a few pages which you have read out.
Yeah.
I think good preparation, and you have really brought out very good points to protect the interest of medium and small sized companies. Medium and small sized companies can also be undertaking research, or they can be important multipliers of the seed for, for meeting the needs of many geographies in the country or in many crops in the country, because it's not necessary that all the big research based companies cover all the crops. There are many crops which are covered by MSMEs also, and many geographies where they are covered. So it's very good points you have brought, that how to protect the interests of MSMEs also. So if I put together the recommendations of Satish and you, these are like the two sides of the same industry, So I think these are all very important. So thank you. So if you have got written stuff, please pass it on to us so that we can incorporate into the summaries. Thank you. I think the issue still remains of, I think this is common coming across all the presenters so far, is that how do you assess non-performance in the field? I think this is an important area which needs greater discussion in the government before this is finalized. Because whether you decriminalize or not, first is the non-performance we have to understand. Secondly, even the way the misbranding is defined in any act, definitions are the most important ones, right? So if you define something properly in the definitions, then their application, which comes later in the act, can become easy to implement. So I think the definition of misbranding has to be looked at, because I have gone through it. The language is not precise enough to differentiate between multiple types of problems that can come with seed quality. I think that is also an area, because that's where the non-performance can start. The seasonal factors are there. The seasonal factors also have to be taken into account. But I think that is, I think the point that Satish mentioned about traceability, confidentiality of data, now the Government of India has passed a data protection bill. So that means there has to be a system in the Act itself that they will have to provide the data confidentiality. But on the other hand, if you see each farmer and each seed producer has to be registered, right? So there has to be a registration number for them. So at every step of the value chain, registrations are there. There is already a certain level of traceability being achieved through that also. So but good points. We'll come back to you.
Ram sir, one sentence I want to add. I'm Nake.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, please.
Sir, in Maharashtra, we have observed that many a times the seed sample in the lab comes failed, but there are no single complaint from farmers, and the ground germination is quite good. So in that case, there is no second option, but and it is in minor offense. So it will be very difficult for the dealers as well as companies to really fight against that.
Correct. But I think in this new Act proposal, they will recognize many seed testing laboratories as state laboratory status they are giving. They could be private ones also. They could be well-equipped ones. And so I think some improvement will happen on that front. But this is an area which also we have to go back to. Yeah, Murali?
Yes, sir. Sir, when it comes to traceability, are we going to provide the production location details in the QR code so that why? Because this has a reason to show because we are in the climate changing era and in days to come, it impacts both productivity and as well as quality. In this context, because when it labeling is concerned, there is no space limit when the QR is generated, so that content may go to the length and breadth. And and also, sir, this from other perspective, if you talk about the quality, it has a distinct impact on quality in days to come. So the climate change is already predicted that there will be a reduction of 10% yield in the next 10 years. At the same time, it also impacting the quality as well, including seed health. So my request here is, so in the QR, the traceability should also include the production because we are changing the production to the specific agroecology due to the climate change.
Okay, thank you. Now, next one is Dr. Sadananda among our panelists. So please start, Dr. Sadananda.
Yeah, good afternoon. I would like to share my slides.
You have sharing rights? Does he have sharing rights?
No, sir, anybody can. Anybody can.
No,
Okay.
I think you can go ahead. You share the slides.
He has your slides?
Aparna, can you share?
Yes, yes. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just before the talk, see this compensation for performance compensation. So we have crop insurance, in the country that also does the crop inspection, right? Crop performance. So why not? I mean, why not these things to be harmonized? That's my question. That's my suggestion. Because crop insurance mechanism exists.
Okay.
Okay.
These are
Can
your
go to the
slides.
second slide. Second slide.
Next slide, yeah. Yes.
Why this? Something else is coming. Okay. Okay. See the things what I've in my view the purpose of this particular bill is to basically.
What happened?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
I can't see the screen.
Some problem is
But
there.
we can see Dr.
We are
Gowda.
able to see the screen.
I don't know.
Yeah, we could,
No,
but it's not
I
moving.
can't see.
Yeah.
I can
No,
see.
I think you allow me to permit me to share. I'll do that.
So you can do. There is no permission required.
No, but it needs permission to screen the share.
But
But
we
I
are
can
all
see the
able to.
slides.
We are able to see the slide, no?
We
Yeah,
are able
I'm
to see
Only
also.
Dr. Gowda is not
No,
able to
no,
see
no.
the slide.
Yeah, now I'm able to see.
Ah,
Yeah,
now he is able.
minimize
Okay.
the other
Okay.
things here. Yes.
Okay, please continue. Please
No,
continue.
Go ahead.
I request, can you give me the permission, please?
So
You
there
can't
is
see
no
the slide?
permission.
He
There
is
is no
saying that
permission
everybody can
required.
see.
Permission required.
Dr. Sadananda, we are able to see, so
No,
you can
there's some.
ask.
No, this is not the slide. Sorry, this is not the slide which went. That's why I want to withdraw that. That is not the one
Oh,
to be sent.
Sure, sir.
Aparna,
Can you
you
cancel
exit
it and
and
give me
you
permission?
just
why
share
don't
this.
you do one thing? You do one thing. Your latest slide deck you send to her. If you are not able
Okay.
to upload, meanwhile we'll take another person and then we will come back to you.
Okay, I think that's I think better. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So while we are waiting for that, I would just like to make one point which was there in the slides. in
Yeah.
this act, there is no mention of seed treatments. Now,
Yeah, correct.
that is now a very important component,
Yes.
either for, I mean, as a pesticidal use or for biostimulant or anything. So seed treatment also needs to be included. That is totally missing.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
point.
Not only seed treatment,
Hmm.
I think these acts don't get revised every year. So I
Of
think
course.
once this is done for next 20, 30 years, this is the same act.
Sure.
So the act should also take into account what are the possible technologies which can come in the next 20,
Yeah,
30 years.
Like GE
And
is not
how
included. It is only
GE,
talked about
GE is
GM.
not there, GM is also not there.
GM is
And
there.
like
GM is
GM
there,
is there.
but
GM is
GE
there.
is not there.
GM is there, but
In fact,
And
that
what
also I
about
had included.
But what you said about the seed treatments, and there is also something called seed enhancement technologies. I
Yes,
think
yes,
they will also
yes,
come into picture.
absolutely, absolutely.
We'll have to bring them in.
seed coating and biofortification.
Yeah. Okay, so Sadananda, we will come back to you.
Okay.
Okay. So we will go to Deepak Prem. Deepak, you are there.
Yes, thank you, Ram. I think
Yeah.
this has been a very interesting conversation, and we have been having a lot of conversations on the seed bill already in the industry. One of the things that I really like in the bill is that it doesn't differentiate between big or small companies. It plays a kind of a parallel ground for everybody. And it does provide for national level accreditation, and it also has provisions for other organizations to register for variety registration as centers for VCU and for registering themselves for seed certification or being a seed certifying agency. I think some of the points, majority of them have already been discussed. One of the things that is mentioned in the bill is on expected performance. I think that has been talked about in several, there have been several views on it. So that part needs clarity on what do we mean by expected performance, and how do we, if there is going to be compensation, then how do we determine compensation? That part is going to be there. It is still to be defined. Branding, misbranding is one of the things that Ram picked up. I think it is defined by 4 points, and these 4 points are very well written, I think. If we want to add to the language of these, they can be broadly, I see that, one variety cannot be sold in the same name or different names, so, and which is a good provision. But how do we define varietal identification? That part is still not there. Maybe, using molecular techniques, molecular markers, or DNA fingerprinting could be included to have varietal identification established, so that we know one variety is not being sold in different names. I think that there are several other points that we noted. One of the points where Ram, you asked me to talk about was how does the Act align with PPVFRA, PPA, and NBA? So with PPVFRA, the Act actually doesn't have much in common with PPVFRA, because PPVFRA looks at a very different aspect of seed business, that is for intellectual property right. But where we can have a commonality going forward is that VCU testing centers can also do dust testing. So we don't have to spend separate time on dust testing and separate time on VCU testing. It can be done simultaneously. And private entities or companies which are capable can have accreditation to do VCU testing, which is already provisioned in the bill. They can also be extended to doing dust. Right now, private entities can't do dust testing themselves. There are dust centers, but these dust centers can be expanded. We've asked for this in the revision of the PVP Act itself as well. From EPS point of view, I think GM crops is it's mentioned in GM varieties, and I think somewhere the Act also mentions safety for animals and environment or humans. But I don't know whether adding GM here makes any sense, because for GM crop assessment, there is already a detailed guideline under Environment Protection Act. in the same way, the price control part, which is mentioned here for emergent situations, that is very adequately addressed in Essential Commodities Act. Why do we want to bring it up here? Even in an emergency condition, Essential Commodity Act gives adequate powers to the government to regulate prices. Cotton prices, for instance, are controlled in Essential Commodity Act, not in the SEED Act. So do we really need a price control provision in the SEED Act? Our suggestions, or rather we've discussed in FSI groups, and we don't think this is needed in the SEED Act per se. From NBA point of view, the Act doesn't actually address anything related to Biodiversity Act per se. But one thing which seems good is that if we have a national register and researchers' right, like it is mentioned in the PVP Act, that you can use registered variety for once for plant breeding purpose, that should be extended to all national registry, so that plant breeding can progress. And for that, no approvals are needed going forward, that whenever somebody accesses registered variety, you need to seek approval either from State Biodiversity Board or from National Biodiversity Authority. Those kind of approvals will not be needed. So that kind of a thing can be built in into this Act. I think, that will be all from my side. I really see that this is a very big step forward. Considering that we are looking at something which is more than 55 years old, and we have made a lot of progress, and it's a very enriching Act, I say. Thank you.
So one question I wanted to ask you was that the purpose or the preamble says regulating production and supply of quality seeds for sale and import, update and
I think it's adequate, Ram, because see, if we want to expand the preamble, I think then we are going to include a lot of things. Right now, the way it is written, I think it's adequate because we are adding variety registration, mandatory variety registration. We are adding, and this is something which is a little confusing, the way it is written right now, whether certification is voluntary or whether it is self-certification. There are already 3 certification agencies there. So I don't think there should be any ambiguity for certification. If it is compulsory certification and we have seed certification parameters, then quality assurance is going to be there. So I don't know if expanding the preambulum will help us or not. I think right now it's adequately written.
I'm looking at it whether the Act will actually help in the way it is written today is very, very cut and dry in terms of what I'm looking at is that if you look at the
I think it's brief and it tries to encompass the spirit of the law. मैं अगर इसको हिंदी में बोलूं तो ना ताले बहुत सारे बनाए गए हैं, पर वो उन्हीं के लिए हैं जो चोरी ना कर सके, ताकि चोरी ना हो सके. So I think the Act, for seed companies which were already working compliantly and which were respecting regulations, for them, nothing big change is going to happen. But for people who are fly-by-night operators, and of course I agree for some smaller companies, there is going to be teething problems because variety registration so far is not compulsory, but now it will become compulsory. But if we look at it from the point of view of the kind of testing we do for state seed licensing, different ways it is done, I think all of that, ambiguity around state seed licensing is going to go, which is good. So I think it's a positive development.
That's right. Although we still need a clarification on what Dr. Malavika explained to us. In my mind, that question is still unanswered, that this registration or listing will be of every new variety which will come, or is it for all the copies of the new variety which will come? If I have copied your variety, should I also go and get a registration? Or do I use your registration number? I think that question
will
play a very important role.
We don't really have any place where this Act mentions co-marketing the way we do it in the industry. So in our discussions within
There's
FSI,
no co-marketing. I'm talking of stealing.
Oh,
I'm
stealing.
talking of stealing. Yeah. So in the misbranding or all those are related to quality. But the question of preventing, how will registration prevent stealing is the question which I had in my
I don't
mind.
think it will. The only PVP registration will help in
No,
stealing.
but if you are not protected,
Not protected.
then if you are not protected, then will the government register each one of the?
I think it will become difficult
You know, in
pesticides.
in pesticides, 9(3) and 9(4) registrations, right? You know the difference between 9(3) and 9(4).
Yeah.
So if there is a provision like that, all those who want to use the same genetics will go for a 9(4) registration.
Because
I'm just
is from we had this conversation in our group as well, because 9(3), 9(4) there is an active ingredient for which you can have different formulations. So there can be 9(3) and 9(4).
Here also there is a genetic code.
Yes,
there is a genetic code which you can track.
You know,
DNA fingerprinting, as you talked about.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think that is something on which we will come back.
If we have a criteria for varietal identification itself, that's going to be important, because how do we identify whether it's the same variety being sold in different names or not?
Correct. So anyway, so that's
it's like notified varieties today, like from all the public sector, all the notified varieties are available for any number of companies to multiply and sell. There is no restrictions. Only in the new varieties, there is some licensing, which have been introduced in the last couple of years. But otherwise, any variety which has been notified and released by the government of India.
What will happen, Dr. Malavika, is that is the current status. When this act comes into picture, newly notified varieties, if I want to take and sell, okay, the newly notified variety will get a registration number.
Yes.
And then if I want to take that and sell, I will have to go for another registration number, or I use the same registration number. And if I am using the same registration number with a notified variety, and I will use the same registration number with a registered variety, there is no difference between the two. So then there is an element that needs a discussion. That's what I'm just.
Yeah, I think this will come under rules, perhaps.
Okay.
Should come.
I hope so, but we'll have to. Okay, now are you ready, Dr. Sadananda?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I have one point here. Can I go ahead?
I think Dr. Sikku is raising hand.
Yeah, this is Tippeswamy. I'm working presently in Syngenta as R&D, rice R&D head. See, if in new law, if registration is mandatory before we go to market, if somebody is copying our variety or hybrid and going for registration, because they cannot go to market directly without registration as per new law. If registration is compulsory, no one can copy already registered hybrids, because when they are going for again registration, they already registration authority will be checking whether it is different or already existing hybrid or variety.
Okay, so I hope so.
Yeah, because that is happening in other countries. In Vietnam, we saw recently one case. Somebody has copied someone's variety and they went for again registration, because in Vietnam they cannot sell the variety or hybrid without registration. And they identified and they told those people that it's already registered. It is not different than registered variety. So they told they cannot give registration certificate for copycats. So then again, they dropped.
So then what is the difference between that and PPO and FR? So then you are practically protecting the first registrant.
Yeah, without registration, if they cannot go for.
No, I think it's a very complicated thing. We'll have to get this discussed more in detail. But your point is taken, what is done in the other country. Okay, so let's come to you, Dr. Sadananda.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Sorry for that hiccup. So I mean, as the bill from Madhvika and others have been talking, the purpose, as far as the bill is concerned, it is basically high quality seed are pivotal to boosting agrarian productivity and farmer income. This is the reason why the seed is an important thing to do. Regulating production and supply of quality seed to tackle the problems of spurious and poor quality seeds, as we've been discussing. And also it talks about encourage innovations in breeding and seed technology and access to improved global varieties. And harmonize seed regulations across the states. These are certain things which are, and there is a clause called repealing of the Seed Act of 1966 and Seed Control Order of 1983. So this is an important thing because certain things in the Seed Acts of 66 and Seed Control Order, which includes something like some Consumer Act related things are also deleted here. So that needs to be very carefully looked into. The next part, next slide, please. See, from the highlights from the breeding R&D, I'm just positioning, my presentation, I can concentrate only on the breeding part of it. No seed will be sold unless such is registered. That is what has been talked about from the morning. And registration becomes compulsory. Without that, we can't do that. There are two categories of seeds. Even non-notified varieties, which are registered as a provisional register, can also be sold next 3 years. No. The previous slide, please. And an approval of Central Subcommittee, basically gets into the certificate is given with the number and the date. So you get you get the right from that particular point of it. It also covers both seed and planting material. And the registration is a process through the process called VCU. The next. So the registration of imported varieties on the basis of results of multi-location trial conducting in the exporting country. These are applications, so I just wanted to highlight here. Central accreditation system granting automatic recognition. That is another thing which we are all talked about. I will be talking more detail into that in later part. Accreditation of other organization in addition to ICR for VCU testing and seed certification. And there are clarifications coming in different circles talking about organizations versus companies. These are all organizations, which means they are independent of the company. There are certain things which are, need to be defined. What is the meaning of organization in this context? And then recognition of the Foreign Seed Certification Agency. So this is something which I'm going to talk also a little later. Next. So what are the issues? So from the R&D point of view, I'm raising some issues here. In lieu of the Seed Act being repealed, does the activity of release and notification exists? Or is it only registered of new varieties after VCU testing and deemed to be released? So there is no clarity on this because they have said repeal of the act, whether by repealing the act, the activity of release and notification, the whole system of CVRC, SVRC are all disbanded. That need to be looked into here. VCU testing is independent of ICR. The All India coordinated projects are controlled by the ICR system, whereas VCU will be controlled by the registrar. Is it the case? Are they independent agencies? Independent of ICR. That's something which you need to look into. Whether national seed varieties are on all India basis or only limited to specific states. The redundancy in testing requirement is particularly burdensome because this is what even Deepak was telling and all others are telling. This is something which need to be looked into, which I'm going to talk about also. What happens when the criteria of DUS or seed standard differ between the India and importing country or external seed system? See, in the previous slide, I told you that the government has approved, you can even take the importing country, the desk, their VCU data, and then allow for registration. Similarly, for the certification. But the criteria fixed for Indian companies, Indian standards are different from those countries. What is going to happen? What is that via media where we can overcome that particular impasse? Next. Now, the biggest, I have my apprehensions, which is what I wanted to talk to some of these government agencies, whether breeders in public institutions are now exposed to legal liability for varietal performance because seed is produced and marketed by seed corporations and others. Who is responsible for the liability? Is it the one who sells the seed or who has registered the seed? Second, the government of India is prioritizing research and innovations, as I told you in my first slide. So NARS and startups and industry are investing significantly in creating new generation germplasm through new technology, including gene editing, etc. How do we align this? How do you support this? Whether the present system supports it or not, whether the present bill supports it or not. The other one is production of different type of seeds have become a technical and business opportunity. For example, selling of breeder seed, selling of foundation seed itself is a business. Now, how to include this in this particular, way in this particular bill? The next, please. I'm just coming out the comparison of the VCU because everything depends on the VCU system here. Cross-specific all India coordinated research projects are existing. There are plenty of them because both under, I think Dr. Krishna Kumar is there, both under DDG Crops and DDG Horticulture, there are a separate set of coordinating systems, both in field crops, vegetable crops, fruit crops. Every crop system has that all India coordinated project, which is the one who conducts the trials and then recommends for variety release and notifications. But India has a diversified ecosystem. There are 15 agroecological zones. And I'm just taking one of the examples of All India Coordinated Project, which to show here. This is the publication I've taken out from Dr. Mahapatra's research publication. Look at on the left side, you have the present system of testing, the locations, the 45 centers, how they are distributed in different states. They are different, that shows on the left side. Look at the way the right side. Right side talks about the geography, agroecological zones, which are basically 15 agroecological zones, which has a further subdivision, but taking this as an example. Look at some of these things. Some of the agroecological zones are not represented in the testing at all. Some of the agroecological zones have been over-represented, which are not required to be there. In that case, with the wastage of resources. So the whole idea here is, when you are doing all this VCU as a criteria, we also should look at the reorientation of equiprons. I think if I may permitted to say, Dr. Krishna Kumar, and the vegetable things, the vegetable coordinated programs, if you look at that, they are in a very, very, I would say very preliminary stage. They just report the data. There is no conclusion, no decision taken on any of the data. And also the trials report is for the last 4 or 5 years, as somebody was talking about, there is no time limit for reporting of data there. It's not very well organized. Similarly, look at the, the fruit crops coordinated data. Some crops have three centers, some crops have 4 centers all over India, and they have to recommend a variety release. So, there is some systemic error, problems, structural problems in this particular thing, and the whole system which need to be looked into. I come to you later why this is important. Okay, next.
Actually, just
See,
to add to that point, Sadananda, is that in your previous slide, if you also take into account the state boundaries, actually state boundaries are political boundaries. They have nothing to do with the agroecological zones. So if you have a tested for a particular agroecological zone and it is falling into 3 states, why don't the 3 states give permission to sell automatically?
automatically,
No,
correct.
yeah. So this state-wise division is also an additional complication there actually. In addition to the 2 that you have written,
Yeah.
The political boundaries are also an issue. Just to add to that.
Correct, correct. I agree. See, that's what I know. What I'm saying is, the present system where we are talking about, our system is very robust and all. When you look into very critically inside, we have some of these issues coming up. Because when you are talking about VCU trials world over, not necessarily in India, because Indian VCU is very generalized term, but it talks about not only yield, it talks about some of the traits which has to be part of the VCU system. They are classified as critical, moderate, and minor. The critical things has to be part of your even decision making, whereas moderate and minor, depending on the situation, you can consider whether approve or not approve. One of the reasons for the success of private sector hybrids is focus on segmentation. I would repeat that because the segmentation is a defined, the products are defined based on the product portfolio is defined based on the segmentation, what type of product it has to go, what character it should have, what is necessary. And then the evaluation is done based on that product portfolio. So this system is not presently available, is there in, though very common, very generalized way it is there in the ICR system, but it's not a very robust system. So what I'm suggesting is, as in PVPFR, each crop to have a specific documentation for VCU. We can't have a generalized one. I do know Dr. Tandon's committee during the earlier thing has come out with the documentation for testing for each of the field crops. And this can be a base. We can really look into that and then extend to all the crops, whatever we are thinking of, including in this. I'm also not very comfortable in including every crop because I'll tell you the reason why in the later part. So standard operating protocols has to be well documented. It requires, what time the meetings has to be there, what is the merit criteria, how promote it, how to cultivate, what are the practices to be followed. This has to be a very well documented one and everybody has to follow the same document. Now agronomic practices are different. The way if somebody is familiar with the ICR system or system, see you have hundreds of questions when you get the data from them. That has to be made almost minimized with the proper data analysis, because the data analysis except for means, nothing else is considered for data. So that is not the way the varieties or hybrids are assessed. So something which I wanted to point out. And there has to be a monitoring of the facilities or practices, what have been trials which have been conducted. And this monitoring presently, as I think the reference also came up, that the same committee is to be there. I agree with that proposal, but my suggestion is you should have an accredited third party, independent party to do that. An auditing part of this particular thing, suggest the what are the basically what you call as incomplete or non-compliances in this particular thing. So that whole system has to evolve through in the internal mechanism where checks and balances are put in. Next. And this has to be the document as we have been discussing cannot be a permanent document. It has to be reviewed maybe every season and maybe after every crop season in the workshops or something like that, and made it into a very viable and very active documentation. So but the other thing what I wanted to point out is it has to have an adequate lead time to implement it, because if suddenly decision is taken and the whole system is not aware of that system, I mean, the conditions, it is very difficult for breeders or anybody who want to enter the varieties for testing into adapt to that. So at least 1 year or 1.5 years, 2 years, whatever, that leeway should be given so that they can get adjusted to that new system which you are adopting. Because the reason I'm talking about is with the experiences of VIC meetings and then CVRC meetings, some decisions are taken, some criteria is fixed at that spur of the moment. And that, I think, sometimes lead to very, very frustrating moments. And then we don't know, this was not known to us, but suddenly they put a new condition and then it creates a problem. So VCU basically is a verification trial. It is basically what I want is validation of the trial documents. So every breeder or every company which are a breeder who submits the data has to submit his entry with a sufficient data as per the SOP, whatever is the given. So that the VCU teams should only validate whatever the data has been given, whether it meets the standard or not. That is what has to be the one. And in the SOP, basically, you can put all the conditions of how much percentage improvement is there, what are the things. Even there itself, we can put how much is similarity, dissimilarity can be allowed or disallowed. And I think, as Kandi was talking about, there may be PVP-FR overlap here, but I think that can be looked into putting into that. And so VCU trial is validation of the breeder's claim, whatever is talked about. All data, including the application, is posted in website and available for public, minus any confidential data like parentage and method of development or etc. for publics, so that public also know what is actually they are looking at it. I mean, basically, it gets into it's a very transparent system which you need to follow. Next. And now coming to the planting materials, which I think Dr. Krishna Kumar also made a point of it. And especially vegetatively propagated crops have a very distinct biology. And they are clonally propagated, they are bulky, they have a short dormancy and perishable. So thus, it is very, anybody to handle that is a bigger challenge. And then you cannot, basically the geographical spread of this also is very limited. The private processing industry has developed its own voluntary standards and sourcing strategies. If you just look at the way sugarcane follows, sugarcane industry follows, or even potato, for example, some of the Pepsis and all, they have their own method of producing parental seed. How do we bring that into this? I mean, it's not like you cannot generalize similar to the field crops or some even vegetable crops. It's a different type of handling. As Krishna Kumar was talking about, it has its own inherent issues in that. And commercial entity for large-scale multiplication. Say, for example, this is with respect to some of the fruit crops. See, fruit crops, you collect the already proven variety or thing, and then use it as grafting or tissue culture in case of banana. In this case, who registers it? And what is the registration? Who has the power of registering such varieties? Next. Next. So basically, what I'm trying to say that is there are systemic problems in basically in the registration process. So you cannot generalize it, and then we have to have crop-specific SOPs for each of the things which are handling it. So another thing what I want to talk about is encouragement to innovation, which is also in preamble. NARS startups and industry are investing significantly to create new germplasm through new technologies. The procedure for registration need to be included the parallel to technique and formulation of registration in pesticides, which I think County made a small, passing remark on this. A similar registration like section 9.3b as candidate variety, I think is a better option to be introduced into this, so that the breeders or the researchers in the public sector or in startups or they need not have to worry about, taking it to the commercial stage. They have a base material, that is, they can, trade it with that. So a provisional registered variety for a specific period, maybe 2 to 3 years, and have the transferable registration right included in that. So that can be validated by post-release performance. It's said 9394, similar to that type. And before it becomes a national or a state registration. The candidate variety is not a national or state variety as per the definition. It is only a candidate variety which is given a pre-approval and a pre-registration or a provisional registration, so that this is available to the others. Next. See, encouragement for Make in India policy. Production of different type of seed is technically challenging and a business opportunity, because many of us know that production of each of those breeder seed, foundation seed, itself is a bigger challenge. Especially if you are taking about CMS based or male sterility based ones, it's a good challenge. So to include different classes of source of seed as unique entities with specific standards has to be included, because here it only talks about certified seed going into the market. What about other types of seed in the seed chain, which can encourage B2B sales and exports? This has to be looked into inclusion in the seed bill. Next. Next. See, coming to I think Suren, I have only a couple of slides. Okay. Because I have 15 slides, so I'm saying, coming to the national accreditation, as some of you are already telling, the accreditation should not be permanent, even for the government setup. Even for ICR or SAU or anybody, it should be on basically, it should be periodic monitoring and validation has to happen, because as a varietal breeders, as a breeders, we know that even the ICR ECRIP system needs thorough monitoring. And because they can't, it's not a permanent accreditation to them. See, there was always a talk about merit-based transparent system, which is introduced as a new thing in this bill. I fully support this. And the methodology which we can include, as County made a passing remark, is that it also, there are merit, scale-based assessment of this, scientific based assessment, demonstrable comprehensive research and development capabilities, which includes how much investment you are making and other things. That can be one of the things. How many qualified breeders and technologies you have, and what is the focus of research for excellence in terms of creating the intellectual property, like what is a new type of breeding technology you are adopting. And then also complete, do you have a complete set of product testing or production and those functions with you? And also I would like to add as an additional criteria for the involvement of them in the VCU testing. Because they have resources, they should be also actively participate in the whole process. So that is something which can also get a consideration while recognizing these institutions. And as Malvika was talking about, I also would say that we should DSIR recognition. This accreditation should also hold good for R&D, and then we should it may not be not to say get rid of DSIR, but you can in addition to or in lieu of DSIR recognition, these also should be recognized, because as I think Deepak was making, or he was talking about, present DSIR recognition doesn't recognize plant breeding activity, because they don't recognize field activities. They only recognize lab activities. So this is an issue. So I think since this opportunity is there, we should include R&D in this. Next. These are my suggestions. registration to be phased out based on the importance of the crop and infrastructure to support VCU. We can't make it from the day of the, and the approval of the law or anything from that date, because this is what, like what has been done in PPVFR, it has to be phased out depending on our capability. VCU is a verification trial for one crop season. Specific registration rules for germplasm and different kind of seed for BTB sales. Validity of registration for a period of 5 or 10 years as deemed appropriate, because this is not mentioned how many years is valid. There has to be one nation, one license. And then appeal to specialized seed tribunals. Basically when you have if you have to go appeal, it has to be some sort of a tribunal or whatever that type of mechanism where it is independent of the people who are involved in registration or anything. So it's an independent entity which can take up the appeals. Revocation of registration for provisions. Anybody has violated PVPFR, that registration has to be revoked. Seeds of registered varieties are out of purview for pre-approval for access. This is what we're talking about. Once we have a registered variety in that, and it should be accessible to everybody for their research or for utilization in their breeding activities. Next. The Act should enable simplified local registration and traditional and regional adopted varieties, because this is where the Narayan Swami and others were talking about. There are, the important now, the present thing is natural farming, a lot of talk about it. So we should also look at that. How do we register that type of varieties? And testing procedure to ascertain genetic purity, which is also came up in the discussion. So we should start using it. And I think I made already this comment. The standards of crop insurance and consumer protection for seed has to be harmonized, because there is already an existing national procedure in terms of crop insurance, how they assess it. So we can look at that and then we harmonize this thing from that angle. So as I conclude, India's competitiveness is being undermined by increasing complexity, delays, and administrative burdens, and need regulatory outcomes to reflect both scientific rigor and strategic policy. I think with though the bill is on this direction, but it needs a little more refinement and then make the whole preamble, a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sadananda, for a very comprehensive presentation. I think you have covered a lot of aspects which are extremely important, and they have struck a chord with many of the people watching this webinar. So thank you for all this. We will take them into account while we do the summary.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of people who wanted to say something. Suren, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Sada. You really made lots of good points, and you added to the discussion. On this basis, I had two suggestions, comments, you can call it. One, since the VCU system is going to come, and the seed bill says that third party will be also included in making the system work, I want to suggest that we should learn from what Australia, Thailand do. They have these national, they call it NVA, National Varietal, NVTs, National Varietal Trials. And these are funded 50-50 by the public and the private, and they have in the major crops, maize, wheat, the millets and sorghum, etc., mustard, which is canola there. They do these independent of private or public. This board takes care of those trials. All trials are coded, and annually they meet and discuss the data, and data-based presentation is given to. It's transparent, and the farmers are able to decide on how to do it. I think we need to work on this and try to create, to me, all the trialing should come out of the AICRP so that they can focus on coordinating more basic research on aspects. Breeding, germplasm, physiology, agronomy, but take the trialing and put it, because what happens today at the government institutions, especially in the vegetable crops, the resources that you need for coordinating 30 crops is not there. So we need to really work on it and try and develop a new system which is non-biased, and everybody will be helped. Second part is, I have always believed that there is an overlap between registration and PVP. Registration takes care of all the data that they need to register a new variety, either a hybrid or a variety. When it is a hybrid, they also register the parents. If this is given, why doesn't the PVP take that into consideration and accept it as enough for giving them the PVP? Why do we need a separate PVP then? I haven't understood. So the second part of the registration is, as far as I understand, the DNA fingerprinting is still not legally considered to be valid. If I am wrong, I would like Dr. Malvika to address that. Is it really true? Because I remember when I was in Korea, we had a long case going on, and we showed the DNA data, but DNA data was not accepted, and on that basis they kind of rejected it. So that is my second suggestion. Thank you very much.
Actually, in my slides, which I could not show towards the end, in this act, there is a proposal that the Central Seed Committee may establish more than one central seed testing laboratories.
Yes.
So I had suggested that at least 5 such seed testing laboratories may be established across the country with full state-of-the-art molecular diagnostic facilities and trained manpower. Because trained manpower is one of the biggest problems, even in the simple seed testing laboratories. And these laboratories must have to undergo revalidation after every 3 or 5 years, and then only their accreditation should be renewed. So this I had also suggested. I think it's a very valid point.
Yeah.
And DNA fingerprinting facilities, I mean, absolutely state of the art, because the technology is moving so fast. I mean, in our country, even if once the lab is established, then for next 10 years, we don't do anything to improve its efficiency. That should not happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think very, very good points and very good discussion. So we have to proceed. So we started with the panel discussion. I am not taking into account Dr. Malvika's keynote address. So we started the panel discussion with a farmer, and we will close it with a lady. Okay. So because the women farmers are also increasing day by day in the country, I think it will be in the fitness of things that we have Dr. Manisha Negi from East West to give her comments, and she is also coming from the vegetable seed industry, which has its own requirements and then specificities. So Manisha ji, up to you.
Thank you so much, sir. And it is my privilege, I feel, because all the experienced people are here sharing their viewpoints, and I could get this opportunity to share my view on the seed bill. So we have been discussing this seed bill from last week, I think, with the FSII platform also, and with the member companies, with the regulatory expert there in the group. Many of the points which everybody has brought to the table today, I think, are the same which I was also planning to share. So I will not repeat those points again and again, but I will try to bring something which may be a question during the discussion, or maybe which I feel that should also be considered. So like one of the important thing which is very new, which is I think everybody is discussing about the registration of the varieties. First of all, the question which Ram sir was asking about, that how we will be ensuring that the same variety is the same variety will be registered by the another company, or means what will be the process, because there is no clarity on this. So I think for that, if we add the DNA fingerprinting or the molecular testing into the registration process along with the VCU, I think it may help because the Act do not allow to sell the same variety with different names. It is under the like non-compliance of the Act. So I think this can be one point, because this is a registration can help the industry to remove the fake seed, the duplicate seed in the market, and provide the better quality seed with the means like with the trust to the farmers. So I think that is one of the important point which need to be ensured. Second, the protocols for the VCU. There is a clause written in the registration that protocol for the VCU will be notified by the center by the committees. So those protocols, there may be many crops which are not like the normal crops like field crops and the vegetable, which are very general crops, but there may be many wild crops which are used in the system for the medicinal or for in a small scale by the small medium companies. So those should be considered, that how the protocols will be developed, because the Act says within 3 years of time existing varieties needs to be registered, or a new variety will be registered for those crops. So it is one of the point which has to be taken care. Another point which is given in the Act is the deemed registration for all the notified varieties and provisional deemed registration for the existing varieties in the market by the companies which are not notified. So it is also one of the points from the industry that the varieties which are in the market, they should be also deemed registered based on the VCU data which companies can provide, and the other like farmer acceptability data, because they are already in the market from last many years. And if we see that they are saying that within 3 years you have to provide the trial MLT, you have to do the MLT trial for registering it for the complete registration. So our feeling is that is the government do we have that much capacity, because there may be lacks of varieties in the market, and can we register those varieties in 3 years doing the multi-location trial? So it would be good if we ask the data from the seed companies, giving the VCU data and other data, and register them as a deemed registration, not provisional deemed registration. So that is one more point in the registration. I think the point related to the biodiversity, that is already covered by many of the panelists in the discussion, that the varieties which are registered in the Act, they should not come under the purview again of the biodiversity for taking approval for the access of those material from market. So that can be one more point which can be added here for the alignment between the NBA and the Seeds Act. Yes. Next is very important point which everybody, I think we already had a discussion yesterday also in the FSI group about the B2B and the B2B business, because many of the vegetable companies and other seed companies also do the same, because if we are selling, if some company have the production facility somewhere and they are producing some variety and providing it to some other company who have a market in a different location, so they do the B2B business, right? So in that case, there is no provision in the Seed Act that how it will be regulated, means what will be the process, because it gives the registration process once for a variety, and if somebody else wanted to sell the variety, how it would be registered, means it will be a dealer, it will be a distributor. There should be some clarity in the Act for those co-marketing or B2B businesses. Second point, I would like to come for the traceability. Everywhere we are looking at the bill that traceability through the QR code. When we will do the labeling, we will give the QR code. And from the last 2 years, we are so much hearing about the Sathi portal. Maharashtra already implemented that. We are following up with the government to come up with a central guideline for the Sathi portal. But we have now the opportunity, I think, in the bill itself, where we can have some provision for the central implementation of the traceability portal, which is not covered. It is only talking about the traceability and QR code, but there is no such regulation. Right now, today's situation, we have problems, means issues with the state, because there is no harmonization for the sale permission in the state. In the coming years, it will be a problem with the Sathi portal implementation with different state, because there is no harmonization. So I think that can be brought into the bill, where Central Seed Committee, because that is the main committee in the seed bill, which may form a committee for the traceability, which can come up with a uniform guideline for the implementation of the Sathi portal. I think that can be one point which we can discuss and which we can have more brainstorming, that how we can include in the bill. So that is one more point. Next is because there are so many points and I feel that already discussed, so I would like to leave those things. Next is the labeling of the on the seed packet. So as we all know that genetic purity, physical purity, all the other criteria which were there earlier also, they are there, but two more things are added. One is expected performance and second is the seed health data. So in the expected performance, we need clarity. We do not have the clarity that whether it is about the yield of the crop or what exactly expected performance we have to mention on the labeling, because from the vegetable perspective, especially providing a expected yield on the packet is a matter of discussion because it varies and there are many factors which can affect the yield of the vegetable seed. So this is one of the factors which needs to be more discussed on the labeling on the pack about the expected performance. Second is the seed health, where we are talking about the seed health. I think yesterday also we have discussed on the panel that seed health should be restricted to the seed-borne pathogen, because there may be other seed health pathogens or other things also. So we should also keep it in mind that it should be seed-borne pathogen only, which we are going to label on the seed pack. And of course, the Dr. Malvika Dadlani ma'am, she has already mentioned that do we have the capability to check to test all these things. So that is also one of the points which needs to be taken care. There is one more thing which is nowhere mentioned in the bill, that is about the seed treatment, because till right now we only mention one line about the seed treatment, that do not use for food feed because it is treated with poison, and that is the only thing which generally which we have right now. But there is nothing else, like if the seed is treated, means like some priming is done, some biopriming has been done, some nutri-priming has been done, because there are many chemical companies nowadays in the market. So there should be some criteria for labeling maybe, or some regulation where the discussion can be happen to cover these points in the bill, because this will be the future. This bill will be there for many years in the upcoming years. So I think this can be a futuristic point which we need more discussion, that how we can also cover about the seed treatment. Many times it's a question, being a global company, from the foreign colleagues also, that what the regulation for the seed treatment, but we do not have any clarity on this. So I think we need more discussion, that how can we, like the ma'am, Dr. Malvika Dadlani ma'am can give more guidance on that how we can do some kind of regulation on that.
Thank you.
Next is import and export point, which is very important from the vegetable seed industry perspective. One point is there, which is saying that export related, the crops which are meant for export, they do not need registration. That is very clear in the bill. Next is import. They are saying that whenever we wanted to do any import, the MLT, the multi-location trial data from the foreign companies needs to be submitted for the import of crops, which means that the open general license which we are having till date will not be there after once the seed bill comes. So every time we have to provide the MLT data from the foreign companies. In that case, we will be having some issues with the seed import, which is only for the multiplication purposes in India and meant for export. As we all understand, in the vegetable, the IP is protected for the parental seed by multiplying it in different places, and we do not multiply it in the same country where we are going to have the market. So these kind of productions are done in different countries, and there should be a new category of import of seed in the bill, in the import category, which only emphasize the import of seed for the multiplication purpose and not for domestic use. Second, import of stock seed, which is the breeder seed, we can say, for the development of hybrid seed for the domestic use. So because this also clashes with one more thing, sir, which is the Schedule 12 of the PQ order, which has been placed under the national policy on seed development, where there are few cereal crops and pulse and legumes, which say that you can import the research, the seed for the research purpose and for the trial purpose for the limited quantity. But if you want to import the seed in bulk quantity, you need to take the ICR trial. But in case when I'm not going to, means like I don't have a market in domestic market, then why should we go for the ICR trial? So those category of seed import should be having a different category into the seed act. Means we need some kind of clarity on the seed bill for that.
Important point.
Then we have one nation, one license. This is my last point, sir. We have one nation, one license under the 17(8). Section 17(8). We are saying that the companies, merit-based companies, will be given accreditation for all, means like for seed producer, for processing unit, for seed dealer, distributor, everything is covering into that category. But still we don't have that, we cannot see that is there any mention of the seed company as a whole. We have to do different registration. Like if you want to register as a seed producer, then you register as a processing unit, then you register as a seed dealer, then a seed distributor. So like who is the person who will be having like a seed company? Means there is some kind of a distinction between a seed company and a seed dealer. Again, it will be same, I think, as per the previous act, which we used to say. And when we are saying that, okay, these varieties are of export varieties, and I'm a seed company, I'm going to export these varieties, but the seed will say, okay, you do not need registration of these variety. But again, when we go to the customs, they ask, give us the license where you have the permission to export these varieties. Yeah. So somewhere we need the point, we need the listing of those varieties also, that okay, these are my export varieties. So this kind of one more point. There are so many points. How we are going to put it into the seed bill, that is a matter of discussion again. But this needs to be means like mentioned somewhere. I think there is one more point, sir, which is I think based over the farmers and the producers, which we say. So farmer has been given the right in the act as the PVP Act. They can save their seed. They can sell their seed, farm seed without any brand name. But how we are going to differentiate the farmers with the farmers who are engaged with the seed companies for producing seed, and they are producing the seed of the companies, because the producer is again, when we see the definition of producer, there is a conflict between the producer and the farmer who is producing the seed for the seed company. So this needs to be some discussion on the bill, that how we are going to separate these three categories, because the seed production farmers should not get that exemption for reselling the seed or saving the seed. So that's just a worry from the perspective of the seed company. That is all from my side, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Although you had to wait for all the others to finish, but you also had the opportunity to listen to all the others before giving your points. Yes, so sir. Thank you very much for bringing out all your points. I think the seed farmer point is a very valid point. We will have to take it up. I also want to say something which may be controversial, but I will still say it, that when the farmer is allowed to sell seed unbranded, why there is no need for him to get it listed somewhere, that this is my variety which I am selling, and why there is no quality control on that? Because as we said, 30% of the market is still informal. That means where the informal exchange of seed takes place. And we need some, so we don't know if there are quality complaints, whether they are coming from the seed sold by other farmers or the seed sold by aggregators who are actually collecting all the seed from farmers and selling. We all know about this problem. Or they are coming from formal companies. And if you see the definition of farmer, that's why I was asking about the definitions. If you see the definition of farmer here, it says those who are cultivating and also those who are supervising the cultivators. Now, who is that guy and who is supervising the cultivators? Is he the aggregator? Is he a seed company? If I am a company and I am directly engaging somebody to grow seeds for me, then even I am eligible to get that protection of what a farmer is getting. So I think we need to look at that alignment of the definition of the farmer. I think it is very important point we need to. So that is, but I think this export and import business is also a very important point you made. That how do we make sure that the export varieties, this business of accepting the data generated in other countries also needs a little more discussion, because you might be getting it from a country which is a temperate country or a different agroclimatic country, and then when you accept that data, then what implications does it have? Same way when we export from here, how does it, because we all know that the seed moves only along the latitudes, not along the longitudes. So we have to also make sure that there are certain, but I think all very good points which have come. So thank you. Thanks to all the panel members who have, there's one person who has been asking many times that he wants to say something, good citizen of India. I don't know whether we are all not good citizens, but I would like him to say whatever he wants to say. Good citizen of India.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. So,
Yeah,
I'm Dr.
Yeah, hello.
Sir.
Who is
Sir,
a good citizen of India?
Can we
Sir.
see you?
Sir, yes, sir, I can see you, sir.
No, can we see you?
Can see it. Okay, lady. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So please tell us. You made. You have asked a couple of times to
Sir,
talk.
two things I wanted to discuss here. I am Dr. Aishwarya from Dhanvi Agri-Genetics, Hyderabad.
Oh,
So-
Dr. Aishwarya. Okay.
Sir.
All right.
Sir, two things I need clarification, sir. When we are going for VCU, along with that, we can register our DNA fingerprinting specifically, and it can be kept confidential. Whenever it can be kept confidential, so that we can maintain the specificness about our variety or hybrid. That is one suggestion. Another one is there is no regulatory measures for e-commerce. Through e-commerce websites also, the marketing is going on for many branded companies as well as the small companies. So what are the regulatory measures they will be keeping for e-commerce and through websites? So another one is, third one is, sir, if we are talking about seed, we are talking about quality. So when farmers are selling, then they should also follow the quality measures for maintaining the standard of the quality. So if they are selling the quality, ultimately there's quality seeds, they are supposed to list out somewhere or through FPOs. They can register their variety or anything, whatever they are planning to sell, and how they are going to check their quality standards. That is my question. So when they are selling the seed, they are supposed to certify somewhere this is suitable for selling those seeds. So which committee is going to certify that seeds are up to the standard or not? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good points. I think this e-commerce is something which is a very good point, which and the data confidentiality, I think data confidentiality will hold good in all cases, because now we have a law in the country on data confidentiality.
Yeah.
So we have to also understand how this act will protect the data and quality standards. This point I also mentioned earlier of the seed being sold by the farmer. Okay, so I think those are all good points. Anyone else has anything else to say? Because we will have just a couple of comments before we close. We've crossed 1 o'clock.
Can I say two things, 2 points, short
Yes,
points?
please. Yes, please. Yes.
The one is actually Manisha raised some points about the provisions under new policy on seed development. Let us understand that several of the provisions which were given under NPSD will go with the implementation of the new Seed Act. That is given. Secondly, with this act, both Seeds Act as well as Seed Control Order are supposed to be repealed. So I have a doubt whether repealing Seed Control Order and bringing one section within this act will still consider seed within the Essential Commodity Act, or what will be the status with respect to that? That is not clear. So that can also be included as one of the points. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a few points on the seed committees, both the
Yeah,
Central
please.
Seed Committee and the State Seed Committees. Actually, the Central Seed Committee should play an apex role and also look into whatever we have discussed here. Some of the points which definitely needs to be taken up at the Central Seed Committee level as an apex body, and suggest from time to time for the proper harmonization and also proper coordination basically between the state seed committees and the apex body level, the Central Seed Committee. And a lot of things, wherever there are issues coming up from time to time, can be regulated through the Central Seed Committee, which has to play a very critical role at the apex level. This is, and also the state level, whatever issues are there coming up, the central level, they have to coordinate with FSIA and NSCI. At the central level and the state level, the state seed associations and some of the farmer producer organizations, etc., they should coordinate so that there can be a proper law enforcement as well as the coordination, cross-border dumping, and the issues that especially whenever such interactions are there, the smooth functioning and would be there between the state and the center, since we are a very huge country, and definitely there needs to be a proper controls at every level. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. I think these committees we didn't discuss, but I think both you brought out. Also, there will be a registration committee, and we also have to understand how the registration committee will get composed, and what are the powers and what are the responsibilities of these committees, as you have just described. They all have to be, I think, in the rules. They may all get covered. We are hopeful that that should happen. So I think there are a few comments.
Just
Who is
one.
that?
Ramjit Baljinder here. So I have one
Baljinder.
comment. Sir,
Yes.
so far as the central and state seed committees are concerned, so I can give you two examples to say that if state committees want to amend any variety and its testing, I'm giving an example. One is hybrid rice case of Punjab and center, where the court asked center to give its opinion. So if state want to execute such thing, it need to be approved by the Central Seed Committee. That is number one. It is the same case applies to BT cotton hybrids. There are different testing processes as of now for North Zone, Central Zone, and South Zone. North Zone, even if a variety is notified by Government of India, after 3 years that need to be again retested, put into trials every year. So this is something which states are bringing at their own, as other states have been bringing some laws, but that need to be approved by the Central Seed Committee, and there need to be a logic for this.
Yeah.
Right, sir? I don't know where it will get adjusted into this whole thing, but these are few things where companies are putting extra effort to maintain their hybrids in those areas. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So
Sir, I have
think,
2 points, sir. Hello,
who
Continue,
is
sir.
that? Who is that?
I'm Nanda here.
Satyadev, first Satyadev, then Nanda. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Very good discussion, and most of the points are covered. I'm not going to cover those things. Only one point on the seed dealer and distributors registration and offense side. any seed dealer or distributor registered in a particular state should not supply seed in another state until and unless the seed distributor is registered in that state also. This is creating a lot of problems, sir. So because a dealer from one state is supplying seed to another state where either the variety may not be suitable for that state or there will be a differential seed treatment in that state, which is creating traceability issue as well as the quality issue and also the loss to the farmers. So that point can be addressed somewhere in this bill under section 4B, so chapter 4B of 18. That is one thing, sir. Second thing, most of the points are already covered by Manisha and several people, and also you also covered on the registration happens. If due to any reason, if registration is rejected, is there a mechanism that why it is registered, and is there so that if there are any deficiencies that can be rectified and again resubmitted? So whether that is included in this section, in this thing, whether it can cover or not, we need to look into it, because sometimes there is a chance that due to some deficiencies, the registration of any application may be rejected. So that is the second point, sir. Third is in the seed definitions part. I think there is already covered spurious seed and the substandard seed very well. Both are clearly mentioned what is spurious seed and substandard seed. If there is a substandard seed offense, it comes under minor offense, whereas the one which is not covered, where Malavika madam also mentioned, is the counterfeit seed. That is not covered. Here it is the counterfeit seed. So it is here it is a IP infringement here. So this should come and cover under major offense. It cannot come under minor or trivial offense.
Yeah.
It should be covered properly, and I think there should be one more definition for this also, because this is really important point which we all consider it, and I think you also raised this point at various stages, sir. I think these are our three submissions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dev. Nanda?
Thank you, sir. The whole event today was very educative, and with the new bill which is coming in, I had a couple of points which I had raised. I am not going to visit again because they've been pinned. The major thought or a concern what I have and I want to express is, see, in CDAC 1966 or certification, it talks about the qualification of people handling it. So I'm talking about the human resource capability and their awareness and the quality of the human resource who are handling all these things. Of course, I have not gone through the 2025 bill, but hopefully it has been addressed, because it is totally a new paradigm shift which is happening in 2025 bill. Not only with regard to the technicalities of the act, but who is handling it, implementation and handling it is a total quality assurance, and the human factor which is important, upskilling of their knowledge and the implementation aspects, both in public as well as private. And in private sector, both in case of major companies as well as MSME small companies, which is very lacking in these days. And that's what the witness I have experienced in throughout my career. Except few large companies, and most of the small companies do not have this concept at all. So we go by the rule book, but the implementation and their application, there is a difference. So is it being addressed in 2025, or we need to make a remark on this?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think those are all important points. In the comment section, there is one thing on Tom. I don't know who is that. There should also be some mandate in new bill about imported, processed and packed seeds for exotic vegetables. I think there is something which I don't know whether it is covered currently or not, but we can look at that. And there is also e-commerce is covered, then Nandakumar is covered. There is one long recommendation from Prasad Lingala. So are we going to have all the comments also you will capture, Dr. Aparna? You will be able to build them into our summaries?
Yes, sir, we will try to cover, as
You
much as we can.
please save all the comments. I think they
Sure,
will
sure.
be all. Okay, so I think in the interest of time, we will have to close it here. So it looks like there is a lot of ground to be covered before this can actually take the final shape. And the government is doing this public consultation. I think this is the best opportunity for us to give the feedback before 12th of December as much as we can. And I think all the points which came today will go from our organization to the government as our recommendations. So I think it's clear that in general everybody agrees that the seed bill is good, and the registration process, the registration is good. Mandatory registration is a good measure being taken. There are obviously many suggestions on how to make that registration, whether scale-based or scale-neutral or whatever way we want to do it. We'll have to take care of that aspect, the data requirements, and then how it will be generated and things like that. Seed certification and accreditation, both the points have been appreciated. I think there are suggestions which have come on how to make them more efficient. But in general, I don't find anyone who is saying that these are not good. But I think one of the things which is important we have to capture today is planting material. A lot of points have come and we must capture them in our recommendations. The multiple types of planting materials and vegetatively propagated materials, all that has to get a good coverage. So this is also something we have talked about. Dr. Krishna Kumar has given a lot of detail on that. And I think floriculture, the way it is defined as agriculture includes horticulture, but it doesn't say floriculture. Whether floriculture is included in horticulture, I don't know. But also the crops, they have mentioned the crops actually by names. Maybe they will have to make that a little more open so that the crops can be covered. But I think there are good points made about some of the quality aspects. Quite a lot of good points have come on how to ensure quality, because that is also the final objective of this whole exercise. And research companies have put forward their views on how this entire registration of different players, and in general they are supportive of all whatever has been done. Traceability, confidentiality of data they talked about. I think confidentiality of data of everything has to be protected, and this is by law today important and necessary in the country. And the mechanism of compensation, non-performance in the field, establishing that is a very important thing that we talked about. On pricing, there was a general consensus that it should be kept as an extreme measure which is required in emergency situations, but that should be defined. What is an emergency situation? Otherwise, normally it should be left to the market. And then to make this entire testing mechanism also very efficient, and digitization. I think there's a good point which also came, that digitization should be done in many places. The act, the draft doesn't have much on that, but I think can we do more digitization of this entire registration process, registrations of farmers, registrations of processing units, and everything gets digitized, and there is a better control on that. Then there are multiple points which Dr. Sadananda brought out, very important points. I think we will have to take all of them and going to bring them into the recommendations from our side. We had good recommendations from Deepak and Manisha both. So I think in general this has been a very good session. I'm very happy Satyadev and Nanda have also given this human resources stuff. I don't know whether it's covered in the Act. This Dr. Malavika will know whether
No, it is
anything
not
has been
covered in the Act actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
We
think
can
we
mention. We can mention.
we have to mention this because this is badly needed
Yeah.
at multiple levels. And so then e-commerce and then some of the other things. So the entire export thing is just mentioned in one line, that export doesn't need registration, but nothing more is there on how to build exports, how this act can help in building exports, building India as an export-driven country. You know, we talk quite a lot. Even in the recent AFSA, we had a full session on making India a seed hub for the world. But the act has to have some provisions which will actually facilitate that. Government itself has said that we should have a 10,000 crore export. But what is it that, what role this act will play in facilitating that? I think that is also something which we'll have to do. Looks like in a lot of areas we have to define standards. I think quality standards of multiple crops, you know, hundreds of crops have to be defined if we have to actually do this. And then the point which we discussed about what are we registering actually? Are we registering a new variety or multiple versions of the same variety? And how is it then differentiated from PPV authority, PPV registrations? And also the point came that, and this we discussed in PPV meeting also, that there will be only one testing, and that testing, dust testing, for example, which that data will be used for both. There will not be 2 times testing requirement. This is what I was given to understand in the PPV discussions. But we'll have to just see that this act is also in alignment with that particular objective. Okay, so those are a few things, but I am sure all the discussions are captured because they're all recorded, and we will have a nice summary which will go to the government. I want to thank all of you for this sparing your time, efforts, preparing well, and a special thanks to Malavika ji for coming and giving us although she didn't agree that it is keynote, but it is actually some kind of a keynote only. You have actually laid out all the points and you went section by section. You did a great job of laying the ground for the discussion. And so thank you very much. And thanks to all the panel members. And thanks to all those who joined. And thanks to all those who could not join also. Because many people tried and could not join. So there was a lot of interest in among the people.
I just hope that we don't have a 5th version of the seed bill. This is the 4th version that we are talking about. I hope this time it becomes an act.
We hope that this will get finalized and then passed in the parliament in the right shape and size. Okay, so thank you all very much. We close it here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to the organizers for
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thanks to the
Very much
organizers.
a wonderful session. Thanks to all
Thanks
the
to the organizers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good day. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the.
Thank you.
Thank you.